Annyeong, it's Mikey here, and guys, today I have an exciting video, and thank you guys so much. We've hit 6,000 subscribers, super excited about that, and I really do hope that I can build this channel up to being a 10,000, 100,000 subscriber channel, and I really am trying to expand this more. So hopefully you guys do enjoy different content that I'm going to be bringing that is not just keyboards, not just mice, and really kind of expand it out more. I'm really hoping I can really provide you guys the help and a good review in terms of when I do one. Now, today I want to thank Epomaker again. This is another board they sent me, and this is the HE80. So it is a Hall Effect gaming board from Epomaker, and we're gonna have to see, is this any good? I noticed that they actually created their own Hall Effect switches, so we're gonna have to see how that is as well, and compare this with a lot of the competition out there. So let's go into the unboxing, and please make sure to like and subscribe. Now, starting off with the unboxing of the Epomaker HE80, thank you again, Epomaker, for sending me this out. Now, as you can see, as we open the box, we actually get a braided cable. This is a really nice surprise to see, because I know that some of the boards that Epomaker does that are a little bit more on the budget side, it's not really braided. Now, it does give you 3 extra switches, which is awesome. Keycap puller, switch puller, and you get some extra keycaps. Really nice for the signature keys like the spacebar, enter. And the reason is because this board has different accents for those specific keys, and they're giving you a different one to be able to actually play around with it and change it if you'd like to. Now, this is a plastic board. It does have the feet there as well. And of course, we're going to have to weigh this board before we do a sound test. And this board weighs a total of 826 grams. So going right into taking a look at the board itself and doing the teardown, after we've done the sound test, we're going to check to see, does this have those flex cuts like most Epomaker keyboards do? So let's see that. And one thing to note as well, I noticed these switches are quite loose inside the board, so when you do pull out the keycaps, they fall out really easily as well. Now, the plate itself is actually not a steel plate, it's actually a FR4 plate, and there are no flex cuts on there, so something really nice to see. And usually in general, I feel like flex cuts aren't a thing for Hall Effect boards, but of course we gotta see. Now, as you can see there, I actually was trying to wave it down to see if that was a scratch or not a scratch. It is a scratch. This board does scratch up quite easily, so keep in mind for that, because this is something that not many people will like. Once you remove the screws on the back of the board, I thought you could open it up easily, but no, that's not the case. You actually still have to use a tool to latch the sides. Why did I say latch? Weird. Now, we can see the top case as well. It's pretty slim. I guess like kind of a little bit on the like more flimsy side, more flexy side. It is quite thin as well. It's only about 2.4 on all sides. So keep in mind for yourselves that like this plastic build is definitely a little bit more on the thinner case side. Now, as we take out the cable, as you can see here that it is gasket mounted and it's part of the plate
and you can have that little sock that goes on the plate that actually helps with the dampening of the board. The space bar as well, as you can see, and you saw right there as well, the switch just comes off super easy. It is quite loose, but it doesn't mean that while you're pressing the keys it's going to fall off. Now, it is plate mounted stabilizers, and they do come pre-lubed. One thing I was actually quite surprised with this board in general was that the space bar and like most of all the stabilizers were actually really well done. I had no issues with them. There was no tinging. Sounds really good as well. And the spacebar really does sound good. I was quite surprised. Now, the plate itself is going to be a 1.6 millimeter, and so is the PCB. So we're looking at 1.6 on both sides. Now, underneath, you do get a foam. It's like the static sheet foam, but it's not like the bad quality ones that we see on the budget boards, like the last one we did with the TH108. And you also get a silicone on the bottom. So you also get a static sheet, which I'm not sure why there's so many of these things, but yeah, they provide all these things inside as well. And as you can see, we're going to do the modding of this board now as well. It's going to be a 2-layer tape mod, and I think it should help with the sound a bit, but maybe not too much. We're going to have to really see after. I'm not going to modify the spacer because it already sounds good, and let me give you a sound test of the modded board.
So we just got done with the unboxing, teardown, and modifying this board. Now, what are my thoughts on the switches that Epomaker has done? They did a new switch, and I think it sounds actually really good. It almost, it's not fully like a mechanical switch, but it's getting closer. Like, the switch actually does sound really nice. And it is super, super close to almost feeling like a mechanical switch. I think they did a really great job with this switch. It felt really, really good in terms of typing on it. Like, I didn't have my usual the feel when I'm typing, like say I would with other holophonic switches out there. I think they did a really great job in terms of making it feel a lot more like a mechanical switch, really improving it. When I tried the last Epomaker holophonic keyboard, I really was disappointed, and I thought the switch that they used was too old. Much more improvement. Really appreciated that. Of course, we're gonna have to really go in depth to see like how does this perform in gaming, and in terms of like the software, how is it any better, and of course compare it with other keyboards out there. So let's go right into that.
So as you can see here with the layout of the board, this is a 75% keyboard, meaning you get your F keys, you do get like the delete on the side, and this board is a full plastic board. I think that design wise, it is super clean. They did a really great job. As I've mentioned, right? This is the keycaps that allows you to change it out, meaning you can really make this board look super, super clean, like just a pure black keycap set, and it would look really nice. Or you can keep it like this in terms of like say for gaming aspect, or sorry, gaming like look for your board, you can definitely just keep the keycaps on as well. So it's nice that they provided something to do that. Now, overall, this board, I was quite impressed in terms of the sound profile of this board. It is sounding really, really creamy, as I was mentioning. It does have this mechanical keyboard feel. The board and plastic quality, like of the case, it's really not bad. Like in terms of the feel of it, I was expecting it to be honest, a little bit more of like a cheaper plastic feel. It is actually a really nice finish on this. I think like if I were to compare this say with like the Echo one I did before, this one does feel a little bit nicer in terms of the whole finish of the build quality. So in my perspective, this one does have a little bit better of a finish, and as you guys can hear, like this switch sounds super, super creamy. I think Epomaker's new switch that they created for the holophonic board was really well done. I was very impressed with what they were able to do and capable of doing. Previously, they used a old Gateron switch, which I really didn't like. It's the super old one. It really does not feel great. It's super scratchy. These ones don't have that scratchy feel, but one thing they do have is has this really interesting like bounce back sound, which I'm really not a big fan of either. So it's kind of like a mix, right? Like these have a bounce back sound when the switch comes back up that just doesn't sound really great. And I mean, I think it's one of those Hall effect keyboard switches things. Some of the switches have that, and this one definitely does. Now, as you can see for the distance wise in terms of travel, so we're going to see 14.8 to 11.6. So in terms of my measurement, we got a first at 3.2. Now next time we're actually getting from 15.1, and then we're going to go all the way again. So we're going to test it one more time. This time we got a total 3.5 distance. So we're going to try again one more time, just do it 3 times to see what kind of distance we're getting. And again, it was the same measurement. In terms of the board itself and the switch itself, we got 3.5 millimeters, but on Epomaker's website it says 3.4. So keep in mind, just my measurements might not be like full. Usually they are about 0.1 millimeters inaccurate. Now, in terms of stem level, this barely has any stem level, which is really nice to see as well. It's a block stem, and you really get very like little stem level, pretty much none at all, which is really nice to see, especially with a gaming board, because you don't really want your switches to wobble when you are holding them down. And this is what I meant in terms of the backward sound. So I hope you guys could hear that, like in terms of the sound wise, like what I meant by the bounce back sound. It really isn't nice to your ears. I could definitely hear it every time I press the keys, which is not great. And I think pressing down sounds amazing, and it feels very close to mechanical switch in terms of like the feel wise, in terms of how satisfying it is. But in terms of when it bounces back, really that's where you get like the disappointment in the Hall effect switch. Now I'm going to give you guys a backlighting test of the board itself. So let's turn off all the lights here. The board itself, it's not a super bright backlighting. Like unless it's really dark, it's gonna not look very bright. I think one of the reasons is that all the keycaps don't have any shine through, and it does cover up a lot of the lighting. The switches are a little bit on the darker side too in terms of like lighting wise. There is no diffuser, so there's no light diffuser where the light can come through. That's one of the things I think is the reason why the lighting is also not too bright either. I think if you are someone who does really like bright RGB, this is definitely not going to be one of those boards for you. Even in person, like in camera, you can see the lighting as well, but in person, it still doesn't seem very bright. You can see a lot of the lighting, but it definitely doesn't seem super bright. Now, the switches do have a color on top of the housing for itself, so it does, I think, affect the lighting a little bit in terms of like what kind of lighting you're getting. See how it's supposed to be white light in the middle, but it has a little bit of a blue hue to it. I think it's just because of like how the housing is in terms of the top housing of the switch. It does affect the lighting a little bit, and you will have a little bit of that blue hue come through. Now, of course, we're going to go right into the website and take a look. So this board is $69.99, meaning $70 USD. So this is a Hall effect board, right? It has 8K, has 32K scan rate, which we're going to have to check later with the keyboard inspector test. And this is supposed to have all the way up to 0.01 millimeter fast trigger, which we'll have to check in the software to see if that really is true. It does come with snap key, snap tap, SOCD, and in general, the board itself is pretty good. You have a driver on the bottom of the site where you can click into. It says download, but you actually don't have to download anything technically. It goes right into a web app. It does take a bit of time to load, so don't just think that your website is broken. It does take a bit of time to actually load the website. As you can see here, we're still loading the website. I'm not sure how it was done, but the web app is quite slow in terms of loading. Now you have to press add new device, it'll find it, you can do it. Now this is the web app. As you can see here, it's very basic. Like you're not really getting a lot from this web app. You don't even get the function layer, which is crazy. I was like, why is there no function layer on this thing? Right? You have like all these special characters and all these other stuff, yet I can't find the function layer anywhere. It does even have profiles, so you can choose and create different profiles for this board, but because there's no function layers, like I can't really set keys for changing profiles even. I'm not sure why they did it that way. I don't know if maybe this is a missed part on their part. I mean, it is definitely a missed part, sorry. Like, they definitely missed this whole thing where the function layer is completely missing. They really should go back and fix that, because the function layer is super, super important. Like, why have profiles available if you can't even use the function layer to change them? Manually change them is quite annoying. Now, as you can see, this is how you change the rapid trigger settings here. So see how you can click onto it. It gives you the trigger distance. It also lets you choose like the rapid trigger sensitivity as well, in terms of like down press, up press. Like, if you want to choose independently as well, you can actually change it independently. You do have an independent button. Setting it up is not too bad, but you know how it said 0.1 millimeters? Well, when you do it on here, it's actually going by 0.2. So I'm kind of wondering how they got the 0.1 millimeter. Now, this is what I use, by the way, for super glide testing. So I use the settings here, and then I actually keep practicing hitting the super glide. And then by seeing it here, I can see the percentage of how high of a percentage is the chance that I'm going to actually hit a super glide. By going through the percentages, I can also see what keys do I need to press and which ones am I pressing too quickly or too late, and change my settings that way. So by checking the ones that are the failed ones, where anything below, I would say 60% is what you want to really keep in mind to know like what needs to be changed. And also check the difference between like the frame rates. If something is like 1 point something in terms of like you need to hit it later for the crouch, or it says earlier, I would then change that specific key only by like 0.1 millimeters or 0.2, and then go that way in terms of the settings, so you can actually see. Like this one said, oh, you need to press your space sooner or later. You make those changes. That way you can definitely make a chance of super gliding much higher. And of course, you're still gonna have to practice it, right? It's not like you don't have to practice that at all. You still have to practice it to make sure you do it. Now, you do have advanced keys where you do have Rappy Snappy, SOCD, dynamic keystroke, and they do explain it here too, each one. So it does have the explanations for you guys, for those that maybe are just buying a holophonic keyboard for the first time and not too sure. At least this way you can see what you're using and what you do need to use. Keep in mind, SOCD is going to be the one where a little bit easier to do, I think, what most FPS games are using. And in terms of everything else, like, I mean, this is a very basic app. Like, you really don't get much. It really sucks that there's no function layer. And again, you have to manually choose your profile. Not really fun. Like, they really should have set up something so that you can do it yourself. Now, going in, you can check the manual here. The manual is supposed to have like function keys, like shortcuts, right? Yeah, I checked the function keys, and I'm showing you here on the screen as well, is that there is no function key for changing profiles either. So it really is a bit confusing why there's no function key layer in the app itself. So I can like check, make different changes, or like different function keys that I want to use, but obviously it doesn't work. Now, going into keyboard inspector, checking out the polling rate. So we're going to test it out real quick, and checking it out here, we're getting 8K. So it is 8K is for sure. You're getting the 8K. Now, one thing I was kind of interested in, or kind of surprised about, is the fact that I'm not getting anything higher than 8K. So when I've tried out other holophonic boards, and they have a scan rate that is much higher, right? So a scan rate of anything like 30K, 36K, 60K. Like there's one I had that was like 128K. When they have the scan rates really high, the chances of the polling rate is usually going to be much higher in terms of the number, and not 8K. But this one's only 8K, which is kind of making me wonder about the scan rate. Now, of course, next thing we got to do is test the board out in the firing range of Apex Legends, because this is a game I use the holophonic board the most. Now, what do I use it? As you guys saw in my showing you of the Super Glide trainer, I use this for Super Glides heavily, as well as other specific aspects that I will explain. But as you can see here, using the board and using the Hall effect on this board, it works completely fine, right? We have it set up, we're doing Super Glides. I'm trying to do something called like more of a heavier like tap strafe in terms of like going in a circle. And that I still need to practice a lot more, obviously. Something I'm really lacking a lot in. I think specifically my hands are just very slow. I have very slow fingers in terms of playing games for some reason, even though my typing speed is pretty quick. I'm having a hard time with that. But as you can see here, picking up items, making switches is really good. This is one of the benefits of Hall effect keyboards. So Hall effect keyboards allows you to set the actuation for your E at a much lower setting. And because you can do that at a much lower setting, that means picking up items is a little bit quicker than, say, some other people, right? Opening up a box, making that quick armor swap. It's important. having that ability to do it quickly with the E at a lower actuation is actually a benefit. Now, some people might say that like, oh, what's the point of holophonic boards? Well, that's one of the things, right? It's a huge benefit. Now, the reason I use a gold mastiff, like gold bolt on a shotgun, is when you do pull off a super glide, during the mid super glide, it'll actually show you as a auto recharge, or sorry, reload, and that auto reload is going to be specific with shotguns, and by doing that, it really does help in terms of knowing you did pull off a super glide. Now, in terms of another thing, right, as you can see here, one of the things about holophonic boards that's also cool is that if you do left and right super quick, like very quick, it actually helps a bit in terms of resetting the recoil. Not like 100% resetting, but it does definitely help quite a bit in terms of that, which is awesome to see. And it does work well with this board, as you can see there. You still have to control it a little bit, but it just makes it a little bit easier in terms of controlling recoil. Apex Legends is one of those games where recoil resetting is a thing, and you can definitely do that with this board and with having the rapid trigger. Now, of course, let's go into Valorant to show you something else. Now, one thing I want to show you in Valorant was going to be using the Rappy Snappy as well as SOCD. So Rappy Snappy is going to be specifically whenever you press a key, if you're holding both keys down at the same time, whichever is held down the lowest is going to be what is going to be triggered. So in terms of breaking, I guess this is one way to do it. But to be fair, I don't think Rappy Snappy is really that great for breaking. I think you can just do that naturally because it's easier to just hold one key down and then press the other key to kind of break yourself. This one is kind of like, I don't know. It's almost to me like redundant. I love to hear people in the comments though that play like CS and like Valorant that think Rappy Snappy is actually really good and they use it themselves. For me personally, it's just I feel like I could just do that without specifically using that. SOCD is a little bit different though. This is something that is actually quite useful, I think, in different situations, but you really need to practice using this. So even if you're holding down A and D, whichever you press last is going to be held. So it's not like the distance wise, it's actually just whatever you're holding, whatever you press last, sorry. So in terms of this, breaking wise or doing long swings might actually be useful. This thing does work really well in terms of the SOCD. And when you're using it, you're going to have to practice how to shoot quickly because you're having to shoot as soon as you press that other key where your character has that little moment of break. If you don't do that, obviously in Valorant, you will see your shots flick really hard off and they're not going to be accurate. As you can see, like when I'm messing it up, you're really going to have to practice that shooting. Like the keyboard's only giving a small benefit, but I don't think it's enough to say that it's going to be too big of a benefit. Now let me show you guys gaming. So this is one of the points I was making in terms of why holophonic boards are good. Like as soon as you land, having that E, be able to quickly press and open something up, super useful. If I were to land with another team in that exact spot, I would have had the extra benefit. If ping was equal, right? You have to keep into consideration as well. If ping is equal, everything equal, and just a keyboard difference, I would have picked up the items and I would have picked up a gun much faster than someone else would have. So there are still like caveats with it, right? Like there's gonna be ping related and other things you have to keep into consideration, but it does help a lot in terms of that. And picking up items, as you can see on my way out, was super quick, super easy. Now, don't mind my shots. I have bad aim, but other than that, like using this board and using it for gaming, oh my goodness, like what is going on with my shots? Like I'm going horrible there. Like you see that, right? Oh, and I got my 2 shots off. But right there, that's another key thing. Opening a box super quick to really quickly grab the item and armor swap that I needed. This is one of the benefits. It works well with this board as well. I kept the actuation kind of low. You don't want to put it too low though because it might mess you up in terms of this. Like for example, in mid-fight, there are times where I like accidentally would hit E when I did not mean to. And because of that, it's really bad because like I'm accidentally rezzing my team when I don't want to because my E is too sensitive and going off when I really didn't want it to happen. That specifically happens when I have it at the 0.1 millimeter. Now, right here, I'm like quickly doing inventory here. So I had a team just kind of pop out of nowhere. See how I accident like certain things, right? It doesn't mean that my movement's going to be OP or like I'm going to be doing anything crazy. As I was saying, holophonic game boards are a help and get small advantage, but does not make it perfect and does not mean that you're going to all of a sudden become super OP in terms of your gaming at all. It doesn't really work that way. Now, throughout the game, right, I'm using different skills and having different settings available. Now, in terms of using this board, as I was saying, and something that I really would like to mention and I hope people understand is that a lot of these gaming keyboards are kind of similar. right? In terms of the performance size, like once you have everything set up the way you need it to, the software really doesn't have as much meaning anymore. It's a great thing to have depending on what features you have, but that doesn't mean that you have to have the software perfect. Like once you have the settings, everything good, and it's working, and you have it perfect to what you need it to be, you really do not have to focus or worry about having the software to be too good anymore. And in terms of the game wise, right, like I'm having no issues with this at all. It feels quite comfortable as well. Like I'm using this, I'm doing the movements that I need to. I'm in a diamond lobby, but you know, right there, like moving around, getting through, using the specific like sparrow passive to like jump and do things. It really is not too difficult. Opening up a bin really, or like sorry, box, super easy, super quick. And I really am thinking like this board really does work well. I will say that there hasn't been issues with like latency inputs where I'm feeling like something's off, or like my inputs aren't going through properly, or there's a delay in something. No, it works completely fine. I'm being able to do the movements I need to, get away when I really have to, you know, use the skills that I need to. The benefit of being able to open boxes real quick and use that skill super fast is like super useful as well. And I think, yeah, if you are looking for gaming keyboards, you don't actually have to spend the crazy money. There's certain things that are like useful to do so, and like reasoning is going to be different per person, right? Say a Wu-Ting. Why would you need to get a Wu-Ting, or why should you get a Wu-Ting? Getting a Wu-Ting is only going to be specific for, say, like you want that customization availability, right? There's so many cases available, so many different switches that work with it. Those are the reasons why you'd want to. It really will come down to, at the end of the day, is what are you looking for? Like, are you looking for customization? Do you really want an aluminum keyboard? Do you really want to have many different switches available? Do you really want to modify your board? It'll come to those different things. And once you really decide those things, that's when it's going to help you choose which gaming keyboard should you get out of all. And I think in total, this board works really well. And for those that really do like more of a quieter gaming keyboard sound that sounds thocky or like creamy, sorry, and has that ability to do Hall effect and doesn't require like a ton of modding, this is definitely a board you should take a look at, because yeah, it is fun. And as you can see here, I had no issues with it. And as you can see here, I keep canceling my heel just to run, but these are things that are nice to have, as it's a bit quicker, especially if you're someone that has slower reaction time. Now, I do really want to show you guys comparing this board with, say, some of the other Hall effect boards. Now, comparing this with the other Hall effect keyboards. So we have the HE80, the HE80. Now, this is a 75% keyboard, right, for a Hall effect board, and we have tried many different Hall effect boards now up to this point of the channel. Really thankful, like thinking about how many boards I've gotten to try and really test things out. One thing I'm going to say outright, a lot of these boards, in terms of performance-wise, in terms of actual realistic, most average people like me, average person, gaming, all of them work fine without any issues. It really will come down to a little bit more of a preference thing, and that's why I'm going to go through each aspect. I'm going to focus on specifically the 75%, because at the end of the day, this is really comparing with 75%. Now this board, now I'm going to remove after this video. The HE75 no longer should be in this video, because I think that board really, out of all of them, just no, it's a no-go. Don't do it. Do not buy that one. I don't think it's worth grabbing. Now, out of all of them, you're going to take a look to see that this one is $70. It's a plastic build. The TAC 75 HE is also plastic, 75 at $70. We have the mech lens at $70. We have the Air 75 HE at $130. The Choki was at $150. So those are the pricier boards. They do provide something a little bit different. I'm going to be honest with you, the Wu-Ting 80 HE is more of a 75% than I would say a 10 keyless. So that's just my personal perspective. I think that's more of a 75%. Or nowadays, I think they call it 80%. Now, as you can see here, the $70 range and more of a similar build style is going to be the most recent one I did, which was the TAC 75 HE. The Slice 75 HE, and I think the Slice 75 HE, like at the price of $150, is justifiable from them because of the quality build that they're doing with the aluminum. So we're going to focus a little bit more in terms of the plastic builds. So we have the Epomaker HE80, we have the Mechlance M75, and the TAC 75 HE. Out of all of them, each one has the little own preferences and different things. The Choki right, you have like a decent software. The TAC 75 has also a really decent software. I think the mech lens is really meh. All of them have 8K, right? Obviously, no issues, like all of them 8K. The Air 75, I think, also has amazing software, but of course, is a low profile, so it makes it very different. All of them had a good scanning rate as well, but the HE80 was only one out of all of them that really tested just straight up 8K, which I'm kind of surprised about. The switch-wise, I think the Gedeon J Pros are really old switches that are not great. The Air 75 HE ones, though, are really nice to use. The Otemu, not great at all. The Akko and the Epomaker, I'd say, out of all of those switches, are probably the better ones in terms of what I've tried so far. Specifically, the Astro Link and the Epomaker Mage X is also really, really good. The Astro Aim is okay as well, but I'm going to really have to test it on different boards instead of just the TAC, because in the TAC, it wasn't the greatest in terms of sound-wise, and I think that's because of how the TAC 75 was built specifically. It really does require a lot more modification. One of the things, right, at the same price ranges too, like similar price ranges too, where we're looking at like the Skylung, which is an aluminum, really nice. The Monscape, also aluminum, really nice. And then we have like the really budget end, which is like the Ueden and the Mchos. They're on the really budget end at the 60% mark, but at the 75% mark, there's not a lot of Hall effect boards at 75%, and the HE80 does it really well. I think the Epomaker Mage X switch really is super nice, like Meg X, I guess. I think at the $70 mark, that one is doing a great job for what it is. I would say out of all the 75%, if you're gonna like at the similar price range, the two best comparisons will be the Akko and the Epomaker. I think the Akko just has a better software in general, but it is a board that requires a lot more modification in terms of making it sound good. The Epomaker, on the other hand, already sounds really decent, and they did a great job with the switch and the board build itself. The plastic quality as well, I think, is a little bit better in the build quality for the Epomaker, while the Akko's is a little bit underwhelming in terms of the build quality. Just the switches are well done, and the web app, or their software specifically, is much more better done. Epomaker's software is really, really mediocre. The web app, as you guys saw, really missing a lot. I would say if you really want the nice sound and feel of like the Switch, go with the Epomaker HE80. If you really care about the software and the specific things that you can do with the software, go with the Akko TAC 75 HE. Right? If the Epomaker's web app was much better, I would probably suggest it. But in this current situation, the web app, honestly, as you guys saw, was very, very not great. It was actually bad. The TAC 75 HE software is actually a lot better. It's just the sound-wise not great, and you will require a lot of modifying.
I think this is a really decent board, especially if you consider the price. And if you're looking for one that does have all the F1 keys, you know, some games really need that. And if you are someone who does use it a lot, this is something you can definitely take a look at. I think they did a really great job in really improving their whole Hall effect gaming keyboards with like software, switches, really making it sound a lot better. It is a plastic case, which is why it's a budget Hall effect board. Of course, it's still more expensive than some of the other, you know, budget ones out there. But I think build quality wise with this board, they did a great job. Specifically, I think comparing it with the Akko one, I honestly think this one sounds a lot better. They did a really good job in terms of making the sound really good. The Akko switches are really well done, but that board just felt a little bit cheaper in terms of the build than this one. That's just my personal thoughts, that it was a little bit on the cheaper side in terms of the build quality feel. This one, definitely a big improvement. I think Epomaker is going in the right direction, but I hope they really do improve it more and make it a little bit cheaper too. I think that would be amazing to see. So I'll have the links in the description. Go check this out and go check out the other videos I got, because I'll catch you guys next time.